This lesson is calculating surface area, perimeter, and volume on 3D nets. So if we look at this shape, we see that it's made up of 6 squares, all the same dimensions. So when this is put together, it will be put together in a 3-dimensional shape, with these being the tabs. You can either tape or glue and fold them underneath, and these two sides will come together, these two sides, and so on to form a cube, which is labeled at the bottom. The purpose of all these 3D nets is to give a 2-dimensional representation of a 3-dimensional shape. To calculate the surface area of a cube, you would have to do length times width, and then you would have to do that for all 6 squares, and then add them together. It's not the purpose of this demonstration because there are so many nets, but what I will do is walk you through a couple without actually doing the calculations which are found in the textbook, which will give you an idea of how you can show the students how to make these calculations. So again, surface area is length times width for that square, and then we have 6 squares, and we would add that 6 times or multiply by 6. The next thing we have to do is calculate the volume. So the volume of this shape is going to be length times width times height, because it's 3 dimensions. Finally, you have to calculate the perimeter of this shape, and the perimeter is the distance around the net. And so all you would have to do is take the number of sides that you can actually see on the edge, and you would add them all together, or you could multiply by the number of exposed sides around this net. Here's another example. We can look at the cylinder, and the first thing we can do is calculate the surface area. We would have to find out the circumference of this circle. Since this circle only theoretically touches at one point to this rectangle, this entire circumference is exposed. And what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the surface area of each of these circles, and since they're identical, we could multiply by 2. And surface area is the same as the area of a circle, which is pi r squared, or pi times radius. And then we would double it. Finally, to get the surface area of this rectangle, we would take length times width of that rectangle, and that would give us the area of the rectangle, and we would add it to the surface area of the 2 circles. The next thing we want to do is calculate the volume. Now, if we put this together, the volume of this cylinder is going to be calculated using the area of this base times the height of the cylinder. So the area of the base we have already calculated using pi r squared times the height, which would just be the width of this rectangle. And so that would give you the volume. And if you want the actual formula, you can look in the book, and it also is pi r squared times height. Lastly, we would want to calculate the perimeter of this shape, and so we would calculate what is the circumference of this circle, which is pi d, plus this one, which is pi d, and then we would have to find the perimeter of this rectangle, and then we could add them all together. So this is how you use the 3D nets in Appendix B to calculate surface area, perimeter, and volume on 3D nets.